Welcome to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Empowering women like you to amplify your voice, your message, your movement. We believe that if 10,000 new women stepped into high-level leadership platforms, we can transform the industries across the planet. 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. And now your host, Narissa Street.
In this episode, we have the amazing Danni Washington, who is the first African-American woman to host her own science TV show. Listen in as she talks about how the divine feminine works through her in order to amplify her mission, and how imposter syndrome is just something else to check off. Hi, how are you? This is Narissa. You have tuned in. You heard what podcast you're tuned into. You already know what it is that you are going to be experiencing here. And I am so happy that you are back. So really excited. As you know, here we amplify uncommon women who are breaking barriers in their industry. In our philosophy, we say if we get 10,000 women on 10,000 stages, we will transform the world. And so I'm really excited to bring to you today the incomparable Danni Washington.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Great to be here with you, Narissa. We go way back, way back.
Yeah, you know we do. I was like, yeah. But really excited, way back, sure, but excited that you were able to find time to do this podcast, because your story is so dope that I cannot wait to share it with everyone. So let's start. Let's dive right in. Who are you?
Who am I? I am a mermaid. We're on a mission to protect the ocean, this blue planet that we live on. I've always seen myself as a face and a voice for nature, being one of many, not the only one, but many people around the planet have taken on this same mission to speak up for things that don't speak our language, being other living beings. And I've had this mission since I was about 6 years old. And from the moment that the film Little Mermaid came out, I was obsessed with the idea of being a mermaid and being able to live under the waves with other marine animals, but also understanding that this beautiful representation of the divine feminine can be seen in this idea of a mermaid. And I think we've hit a moment in time and in human history where we have to step back and look at our ways and see the fact that toxic masculinity and toxic patriarchy has brought us to our knees, where we're seeing nature retaliating, and our very support system is crying out for us to change our ways and change our behaviors so that we can live in harmony with nature. And I think the only way we're going to get there is by embracing and uplifting the divine feminine that lives within each of us, not just women. There is a divine feminine element to every single human being on this planet, and it's about saying yes to that and being a representation of that. That's collaborative, open, nurturing, calm, kind, and generous. That to me is what the divine feminine represents.
Okay, so much to unpack and so delicious. Okay, so first of all, I am a big fan of a well-told story, and the fact that you were connected and hooked by the adorable Little Mermaid is amazing. But the fact that when you watched it at 6 years old, you recognized yourself, even though, we talk about representation matters, but even though the image of the Little Mermaid was not, the image that matches you as far as physically, in your heart, you saw something. And the fact that you've been able to work with that, and now it is really recognizable to you as the ocean, as the divine feminine, as someone who, when we are turned into mermaids, right, we can live in harmony with the environment that we're in. I think that's stunning and spectacular. So this is great. So having that in mind and having that driving you forward, what are you involved with right now?
Well, I just shared with you what the essence of my being is and why I'm here on the planet. If you ask me what my day job is, it's a lot of different things. I'm Jamaican. I got 4 or 5 jobs. I got all of it,
Yes.
But just to run down the quick list, I'm a science communicator by trade. I work on television shows as a host to help bring forward information about science and STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math to new audiences, particularly K through 12 audiences, which is my sweet spot. But I also make content for adults, which I really love. I've worked on several different television shows nationally on Fox Network, CBS, also a digital series on Facebook Watch called Science the Shit Out of It. Yep, that's the name. And as well as Discovery Channel and Science Channel. And so over the last 12 years, I've worked my butt off to be present in this space that has been traditionally dominated by white males, whether it be a nature host, like let's think of like a Jacques Cousteau, Steve Irwin type, or, Bill Nye. These are all role models for me, all of these men. But I was ready at the age of 21 when I made that decision. I was like, this is what I want to do for work. I want to be in front of the camera. I want to tell stories about science and about nature. And that's where the inspiration came from. And so I'm doing that today. And I'm very proud to be the first African-American Black woman to host a science show in the US. So that's one of the things, the little feather in my cap, but I don't take it lightly. And I, like, our beautiful Vice President Kamala Harris says, she may be the first, but certainly not the last. And so I'm hoping that my role has opened the floodgates so that more little girls, brown little girls and little boys, will feel inspired to do what they love. And if they love science and they're a nerd like me, then great. Be it, live it, breathe it, all of it.
Yay. So that's amazing because I think one of the things that people who are stepping into a field and are the first in the field, there are these kind of things that you go through, like where I have plenty of role models who don't look like me either. And so when you step into the field, there's this kind of, okay, well, I want to be here, but am I supposed to be here? And of course you are.
Imposter syndrome.
Of course. So have you experienced that, and what did it look like for you? And then, of course, how'd you move out of that?
I mean, of course, yes, absolutely. It's been an ever-present concept in my life, my entire career. And even in high school, I attended South Broward High, shout out Bulldogs, Reef Dogs, which had a phenomenal marine science program. But even from then, when I was in high school from 2004 to 2008, I was one of the only Black young females in that program. Wow. Because there's a stigma about Black girls in water, Black girls in the ocean, or Black people in general wanting to be out and about scuba diving, doing all these things, swimming with sharks. And I wanted to break that barrier because I grew up listening to people and adults telling me as a child, we don't do that kind of thing. That's not for us. And you can't do it. And that was just fuel for my fire. I'm just one of those personalities. I'm like, you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. Just because you told me no.
Right.
So, yes. So high school, it was great. I was blessed with a really amazing mentor, Mr. Ted Davis. He retired a few years ago, but also Miss Deb Hickson, as well as Miss Sharon Thomas. They were all a part of the program when I was there, and just so grateful for their leadership and their mentorship because it sent me on this trajectory that I'm on right now. And so by the time I got to college, I went to University of Miami, got my Bachelor of Science degree in Marine Science and Biology, double major. And then same thing, I felt the same way. I was one of maybe 2 or 3 students in the entire marine science program. And so I did internships, I volunteered, I worked for NOAA, I worked with nonprofits, I interned with a PhD candidate. And
stick a pin. Tell us what NOAA means.
NOAA, oh yeah, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the government entity that oversees all things ocean and atmosphere. And they run a lot of different research projects. And they also have a Southeast Fisheries Lab that's located right across the street from Rasmus, which is Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Science, which is where I spent most of my time as an undergrad because I was taking a couple classes there, but I was also, like I said, volunteering and interning. So I knew from those 4 years that I needed to expand and open the doors for other people who love marine science like I did, who look like me. And so I knew right from graduation that I needed to pursue this idea of being visible and representing something that hadn't been seen before. So I made the decision at that point not to go to graduate school, because I felt this deep sense of urgency that if I don't fully invest my time in pursuing this particular role that I felt was so needed in that moment, I don't know if I would have made it, because graduate school and the culture of academia, unfortunately, it is changing. But at that time, it was not welcoming. And that's where I felt the most like an imposter, because the culture of it all was not, it was just not for me. It was not creative. People were depressed. I was literally working with PhD candidates that were like stressed out to the point of like being hospitalized. Like, it's not cool what a lot of those candidates had to go through just to get a diploma, a degree, and this credential, but not to downplay that. I mean, like I said, it is changing. Academic institutions are evolving, and they're seeing the need for more inclusivity and more equity, specifically for Black women in science and STEM. Like, I just take my hat off to so many different women who went in and got their PhDs, and no matter what discipline of STEM, they worked. I know they worked their asses off to get there, because I witnessed and I saw it with my own eyes. So from there, it was about creating content and creating opportunities to amplify these stories of not only women in STEM, but just, again, stories about nature and stories about what makes our planet so unique and so amazing. And that's all I wanted to do. And simultaneously started a nonprofit called Big Blue and You when I was 21 with my mom. And we wanted to create a platform and a space for young people in South Florida to have a chance to connect with the ocean. And we used art and science together as tools to help do that. And so we created a festival called Art by the Sea, and we invited thousands of kids from all over South Florida for 7 years straight, coming out to historic Virginia Key Beach Park, which is a historically Black beach, and celebrated the ocean together, and gave so many of those young people their very first experience in the ocean, where it was welcoming and it felt good, and they had positive memories to make with us. And it was such a privilege to do all that. And we're still doing it to this day. Big Blue and You is still in existence, and we're continuing our content.
Hey, this is a great episode, right? Want to carry the insight from our show wherever you go? Visit myjoyisvaluable.com for the best resources that we've gathered that are inspired by expert guests. Find support for your business, tools to organize your life, and more. That's myjoyisvaluable.com.
That's fantastic. So there's so much there to unpack. So I'm going to break into a few things that'll help people getting through the imposter syndrome. So number one, what I heard was there was a strong vision for you once you had gone through the program and realized, well, gosh, I'm one of two, in a large program, especially University of Miami, especially any academic program where it's a strong program, it's also competitive, right? And so the fact that you were there and that you recognized that you were one of a few, but made the decision that this is my mission here. A few things I heard that were helpful to you. So number one, you found a mentor. You found several mentors. You found people who were able to support you and support that vision. Even if they didn't know they were supporting that vision, they affirmed and acknowledged you. And one of the things that I tell people when they're concerned about imposter syndrome is you feel like an imposter because you are one, right? And so it's okay to lean into that because you're ushering in something new, right? And because you're so new, this as a scientist, that there's this whole kind of was a homeostasis, right? So anything new introduced, right? It's like the system's like, what is this? I don't know what this is. Let's figure this out. Let's get rid of it, but you are there to mutate, to transform,
yes.
to help elevate. So you being there is part of the reason that academia is changing, because they see that they're losing people who are bright stars, who are people who have a bigger vision. And our wisdom, the wisdom of brown people, we're brown because we are connected to the planet, and our wisdom is not wisdom that should be denied. So I'm grateful to know that you pushed through that imposter syndrome, had the mentors you needed, and especially shout out to moms who see the vision with you. Yes. So this beautiful program, Big Blue and You, continuing to do the work. So of course, I'm hoping those of you who are listening to this and watching this, if you know any young person, Big Blue and You, she said they're still doing the work virtually, and I'm sure at some point we'll be able to get back together, next to the ocean, be right there with you, and experience the joy with you. So thank you for continuing. So move us through now. You've started this organization. You've made the decision to be visible. When you made that decision to be visible, a question for you. As you're pushing towards the visibility, what's one thing you wish you had learned earlier?
Oh, that's such a good question. So just to give you some context, I started Big Blue and You at 21, but I also simultaneously got a job, my first hosting gig, because of YouTube,
Nice.
called Untamed Science. And I worked with them for 3 years, and we made videos for textbooks for Pearson Publishing. If you're an educator, I know you probably know this, nurse. I mean, they're the biggest publishing company in the world.
Biggest.
Tech publishing company. And so we were a group of people that we called ourselves science filmmakers or eco geeks. And we were telling stories about science. And that's where I learned about the art of storytelling and filmmaking, behind the camera, in front of the camera, all those things. So that was happening at the same time. And I think the one thing that I wish I had learned from that moment was not to be so attached to having like a full crew, because having that first job, that's what we were. We were our own crew, and it felt, it was guerrilla, but we still got it done, and we were professional. Thinking back on that, if I had started my YouTube channel and let go of that idea of having a big production team instead of just diving into making my own content, I wish I had done that back then. Because that was the onset of YouTube. I mean, honestly, I got the job because I posted one video on my YouTube channel, and the founder of Untamed Science, one of the co-founders, he happened to see it. And then he wrote to me and asked me if I wanted to audition. So YouTube has been a portal for me and a conduit to much of the opportunities that I've had. And I wish I had just been more, just not as scared to create something that, wasn't picture perfect. If it's a really interesting balance, because prior to 2008, YouTube was just started in 2005. It was only a few years old up until that point. So it was just taking off. And but it's not too late. I'm actually relaunching my YouTube channel this year, so I'm very excited. But it's a labor of love, and it takes a lot of effort to do that and to be your own self-producer.
Yeah, well, I mean, now that you've put it out there, I'm sure there will be people who will be happy to help, and particularly with this really, really robust mission that you have. So talk to us about some of the things that are helping you maintain that mission and that vision, because the last time we talked, you were traveling here. You're based right now, I think, and on the West Coast. And so there's a lot of moving parts. So what's helping you maintain yourself while you have this really strong vision?
What helps me maintain myself is meditation and yoga. If you want to go to a very basic,
Sure.
level, like that's physically, I need that in order to stay focused. But other than that, as far as staying motivated, it's really about the bigger picture for me. I am the type of person who sees something and sticks to it, come hell or high water. And it's a good thing and a bad thing at times. If you get really stubborn and you don't let go of something. So I've had to learn that lesson a lot in my life, where it's like some things you have to let go. But what I will not let go of is this idea of building a world that's sustainable and just for all people. And so that bigger vision is what keeps me going most days. And then also, the opportunity and the privilege of being able to create. Like, I'm lucky enough to live. We're lucky enough to live in a country where we have this freedom to do so, where we're not being censored in a way that many other countries. I'm sure we're censored to a certain degree, but like if you look at other nations, it's a totally different ballgame. So I'm grateful to be able to do that and to be able to be an artist within my own rights and express myself.
Yeah. That's great. So who are your, so thinking about some of the things that are motivating to you. So the yoga and the meditation, which is beautiful. It's a great self-care practice. Who are some people who you wish you could work with?
Oh,
right.
God.
So figure that they're on their way. So who are the people that you know that, just give them a couple of years. We're going to be working together.
Oh, most definitely. I would say Beyonce.
Nice.
I love Beyonce so much. And
Sure.
to me, she's just, her music, her expression is really a representation of fierce feminine energy that is so powerful, so energizing. If I'm having a bad day, I'm going to listen to Beyonce and get my spirits up. I would love to work with her because I know she loves the ocean very much. And so that would be great. My dream would be to like go scuba diving with her or something. I'd love to work with Bill Nye. We had a chance to meet in person last year, 2019. Does 2020 count anymore? I don't know.
Not really. I don't think so.
2019. We had a conversation backstage at this event called Planet Home in San Francisco. And we took a selfie. Like he took his phone and took a selfie with me. And I was like, what is happening? I don't fangirl much about people, certain celebrities, but like with Bill, it was like, oh, yes, I cannot believe that happened. But yeah, I'd love to work with him too. And who else? Probably the Obamas, as well as Oprah. The big ones that we all have come to love and know and be representatives of Black excellence. I just want to be able to showcase to more of our people, brown and Black people, to know that the ocean is for us too. And if I can use and be a part of a movement and working with people like that who can help elevate that message, I would love to do so.
That's excellent. So some things that I think a few of our listeners work with in wanting to be someone breaking some barriers in their industry. We already talked about the imposter syndrome, and I wanted specifically to tap on who do you wish you could work with, because I think we sometimes don't feel comfortable just speaking those things out or just acknowledging that, there's growth that we want to do and places that we want to go. So keeping those kinds of things in mind, how do you now balance that energy, which is, of course, the energy to create and to move and to be, it tends to be masculine, right? Mm-hmm. How do you balance that plus acknowledging the divine feminine? How do you put those two practices together in your work and in your business?
It's a very delicate balance, to be honest. I think that the telltale signal for me personally, when I know I'm driving too hard, is when I burn out and I'm like, I don't have any energy. I don't have anything to give. And it's just a constant reminder of like, replenish yourself, get grounded again. Look at, like, stop, pause, breathe, like all those things come to mind. The level of tenacity that's required to do something that's different, that's non-traditional, that hasn't been done before, it's a lot. And you got to have that within yourself, and you got to continually build that muscle. And you only do that through practice, through action, which is very much a masculine energy. And I just try. I'm constantly calibrating. There's no perfect formula for that. It's very personal. And so for each person to realize that you gotta be open to this idea of constantly pivoting and not being scared of massive change in your life. Because the first 8 years of my career, like after that mark of 21 all the way to 30, it was rough. Okay. Like it was not sunshine and rainbows all day. It was sleeping in my car because I wanted to be in LA because that's where the entertainment industry is, or having to, completely live out of a storage unit for a long time. Okay. And moving back in with my parents because I had hit a wall, and like all of these things most people wouldn't be willing to do because we're so conditioned to seek comforts of the material world, when that in itself is not going to lead to happiness. And I think what 2020 showed us is it revealed, again, what is most important in life: our families, our friends, our relationships, and the contributions that we're making to the planet and to each other. That's what all that matters. Anything outside of that is just fluff.
Yeah, and I think we settle for the material comforts because we don't take the risk of the true satisfaction, and it's a conversation I have with, as I'm an educator. And so a conversation that I have with my students, both adults and young, is the first thing that attracts them to the message that I produce is the potential for money. And then we always end up getting to a stopping point where I say, but you're not going to make anything sustainable until you're actually acknowledging what's true to you and what's authentic to you. And so interesting how with the young, there's a sigh of relief. And with the adults, they're like, and I'm like, it's just because you've at that point, you've built a life based on this, whatever the falsehood is, right? Mm-hmm. And so to think that, okay, well, your next level is going to be authenticity, where everything has to be stripped away, and you're going to build on that. People think, oh gosh, I'm going to strip everything. No, it's just, we're now going to build something that you're going to continue to sustain and not have to work so hard. Yeah. So, I think that's it. It's when you're, as you're saying, just not holding onto the material and stripping the other things away. You don't have to work so hard, and the joy and the happiness spills over to everybody else who's with you. So, yeah. Absolutely. Oh, wow.
And getting to that flow state too, that is to me that's the pinnacle. However, I can create methods and ways and pathways for myself to get to that place where I'm feeling blissful and time and space don't matter anymore for me. That's what I'm always aiming for. One example of where I usually feel that so super quickly is when I'm scuba diving. Because it forces you to be completely present in the moment. You're listening to your own breath through your regulator. You just hear this, and it just reminds you that I am this being, this multidimensional being having a human experience, and I'm immersed in this world that is not completely mine, living, swimming around with different marine animals. It humbles you, and you're just like, whoa. And I think of nothing else when I'm when I'm underwater and scuba diving. It's just there in the moment. I've had the most amazing interactions and encounters with marine life, and I hope to have so many more.
Wow. I'm going to pull on that. You're immersed, you're present, and you're in this world that's not completely yours, right? That, I think, if we get to that place and we acknowledge that, when you know that you're present, you're immersed, which means it's all around you, but still you're in it, you're participating in it, you're acting in it, you're being in it. And then the other thing on the other side of your mind, it's not completely mine. So watching your actions, being conscious of how you move, being conscious of who's right next to you. And you're saying you're having these great encounters with the marine life. I can't imagine. That must be just stunning. And and there again, the Mocha Mermaid.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
There is. Yeah. Marine life. They're my friends. They're my family. I just had my most recent scuba dive. I had a chance to go diving with bull sharks about 3 weeks ago. And
tell us more.
They're interesting because most people, are obviously very scared of sharks, but bull sharks in particular, because they're one of the most aggressive animals on the planet. They have the most testosterone of any animal. Bull sharks are essentially the original Jaws, because they're able to swim up rivers into fresh water. Yeah, they're super predators, but doesn't mean that they're super predators towards humans. What I call what most people call shark attacks, or I call them shark mistakes. And that's what most of us in the marine conservation community say, because we now understand that sharks are extremely curious. They don't have fingers and hands like we do, where we can touch and feel and figure out what things are. They have their mouth. So they bite it and they're like, is that what I'm supposed to eat? Nope, spit it out. And what you'll find, a lot of people who have had these unfortunate encounters with sharks where they were bitten, most people don't even see the shark. They get bit and the shark is gone because it realizes, this is not for me. This is not what I want to do. Yeah. So and most people who pass, unfortunately, from that experience is usually because of blood loss, whether they were bitten in a place where there's a major artery or something like that. And so it's never fun to talk about that stuff, but you think about the ratio and the probability of it happening, like you're more likely to die from a coconut dropping on your head on the beach than from a shark bite.
Yeah, and I think, but I going back to media, right? Full circle, going back to media, what we remember is Jaws, right? Yes. And so I think, I'm very hopeful that you are a presence in the media, because as we begin to acknowledge that the world that we're in is not ours, right? That we're guests, that we're visitors, that we're stewards, and that story starts to get out, right? Not only that, the story of, as we talked about in the beginning, the divine feminine, that it is both outside of us as the ocean and in us, right? And so when we find that alignment, then the shark attack, well, you're more present, you're more acknowledging, okay, I am in someone else's world. And as I'm in someone else's world, I probably should pay attention that they're going to try to, because your dog does that. I mean, if you have a dog, the dog, if it's playful, it's going to nip at you. And, so I can't wait for you to continue to break the barriers that you're breaking in the media and getting those stories out there about this gorgeous, gorgeous world that we're grateful to be a part of. So I'm wondering, you have.
So if I can interrupt, just about the dog's idea. Yeah. Whenever you're dealing with animals, there's always that wild instinct within them. And we have to respect it, as humans, and not push their limits. And so when I go diving with sharks, I am hyper vigilant and I'm looking around and I'm paying attention. But when you have the opportunity to look into a shark's eyes, be like level with them, it's one of the most beautiful things you could ever experience, because they have been around since before the dinosaurs. Like, they have been in the ocean for a long time, and they are perfect and beautiful and just majestic when you see them swimming, and you get rid of that fear of like the unknown, the thalassophobia, the fear of deep water. That idea to me represents the fear of like not acknowledging your subconscious. Like the ocean represents our subconscious, where we're like so scared of what's down there, but there could be all the answers that we need, and they're all right there. But it's about immersing yourself, going down, getting deep, and facing your fears. And so diving with sharks represents that 100%. And it just gives me this massive adrenaline rush that I just can't even describe. So if anyone listening ever wants to go diving with sharks, hit me up so we can go get certified and go.
Wow. So last few things. So diving deep. Right. And diving deep and releasing the fear of diving deep. What other fears do you feel that being in an alignment with nature will help us remove?
Honestly, I think it's more about the fear of, like I said, the fear of the unknown. Mm-hmm. Wanting a perfect plan and a perfect trajectory of what you're going to do, who you're going to be, what you're going to accomplish. To me, it's representative again of just being out in the water and looking down and not being able to see the bottom. Like, there's just so many possibilities. To me, that just makes me so excited to see a visual like that and to feel that about my life, that I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. But I'm going to do everything that I can today and in the present moment to be the highest and best expression of myself, so that I can continue to expand and evolve. And so if more people can figure out what it is that scares them, and then go forward and figuring out why it scares them and how do you overcome that fear, the more freedom that we'll feel.
Yeah. Ooh, free. Awesome. So, final words of wisdom, and then you're going to tell us where we can catch up with you. So yeah. So if we want to hit you up for the shark diving,
yes.
So let us know.
I think final words of wisdom would be live out your passion. I know it sounds kind of cliche, but it's more true than ever before. Our world is in flux and it's changing rapidly, and there's no telling of what it'll look like in the coming days. So that's all the more reason for you to live out what you love, what gives you the deepest sense of happiness, and be that. Don't shy away from it anymore. Live life to your fullest capacity, like however big you want to imagine life, write it down, envision it, feel it. I highly recommend visualizing your goals. Don't just write them on a paper, but you can write them down. But then the next step is to sit with that and to feel the feeling of what it would be like if you reach that goal, when you reach that goal. Feel it in every inch of your body. And I'm telling you, that'll speed up the manifesting, like where you're going to manifest your dreams. And it's worked for me, and I believe that it can work for so many other people.
Stunning. Okay, so definitely feel it, acknowledge the divine feminine, because that's our feeling nature, right? And connect with who and what we are. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. So where can we find you?
You can find me internets all over. On all social media platforms, you can find me at Danni Washington. That's DANNI. And then also check out Big Blue and You. And we're on most platforms at Big Blue ANDYOU. On our website too, we got all the deets there. So definitely, I love hearing from people and having conversations. So I'm around. Yeah.
Thank you. Yay.
Thank you for tuning in to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Share this episode with someone who needs it. Find us at 10,000women10,000stages.com.